Welcome to the Margin Call, where market mechanics meet strategy.
Everyone tells you the same advice. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify. Spread it around. But here's the uncomfortable secret. Most people's diversified portfolio is actually one basket, wearing 20 different costumes. There's real math that can prove exactly how diversified you are or aren't, and almost nobody outside a hedge fund's risk desk ever bothers to run it. It's the same math Google used to rank every single page on the internet. It's called an eigenvector. And today, we're going to borrow it, point it at your portfolio, and use it to explain the exact mechanism that made diversification quietly disappear in 2008, right when everyone needed it the most. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll be able to look at your own brokerage statement and actually answer the question everyone assumes, but nobody checks. How diversified am I, really? Let's start simple. Picture every stock not as a ticker symbol, but as a vector, an arrow that captures two things at once: how much return it tends to deliver and how much it wiggles around while doing it. Here's stock A. Here's stock B. When you build a portfolio, you're not really choosing one arrow or the other. You're blending them. Put 60% into A and 40% into B, and mathematically, you get a brand new arrow, a weighted combination of the two. That's the entire idea behind portfolio construction, stripped down to its geometry. You're not picking stocks. You're picking a point in the space of every possible combination. Now zoom out. Instead of one prediction, imagine thousands of days of actual historical returns for these two stocks, plotted as a cloud of dots on this same plane. The shape of that cloud, how stretched it is, which direction it leans, how tightly the dots hug a line versus how loosely they scatter. That shape is the real story your portfolio is telling. And that shape has a name, the covariance structure. Ask yourself right now, could you actually draw the arrows for what you own? Most people can't, and that's exactly the gap we're closing today. Here's the tool that describes that cloud precisely, the covariance matrix. Don't let the name scare you off. It just packages three numbers together: how much stock B moves on its own, and how much the two of them move together. That third number is correlation, and it's the one that changes everything. Watch what happens to a perfect circle of equally likely outcomes when we run it through this matrix. As correlation slides from -1 to +1. At zero correlation, the circle just stretches evenly in both directions. That's diversification working exactly as advertised. Push correlation toward +1, and watch the circle collapse into a thin diagonal line. That line is the dangerous part. It means these two supposedly different stocks are really just one bet. Moving together and owning both of them bought you almost no protection at all. Real-world numbers make this concrete. Two stocks from the same crowded trade, same sector, same narrative, same investors chasing the same headline, can sit uncomfortably close to that flattened line on a perfectly ordinary day, long before anything actually goes wrong. Now push correlation toward -1, the opposite direction, and the ellipse tilts the other way, and this is where true diversification actually lives. When one asset zigs, the other genuinely zags, and the combination can cancel out risk instead of quietly doubling down on it. Here's the part that should genuinely worry you. This was never just a two-stock story. Own 20 stocks that are all, say, riding the same AI wave, and your real cloud of outcomes can collapse into that exact same thin, dangerous line. 20 tickers, one real bet, dressed up as a diversified portfolio. The number of names in your account was never really the point. The angles between them are the point. A portfolio of 20 highly correlated stocks can be mathematically less diversified than a portfolio of just 3 stocks that genuinely move independently of one another. It sounds abstract until you check your own statement and realize half your different holdings are just the same trade, wearing different logos. Diversification was never a counting exercise. It's a geometry problem, and most portfolios fail it quietly, for years, right up until the one day they don't. So if owning more stocks doesn't automatically protect you, what actually does? This is where eigenvectors come in, and they are not just an abstract math class topic sitting in a textbook. An eigenvector of that covariance matrix is a direction the matrix only stretches, it never rotates it. And here's the beautiful part. Every portfolio, no matter how many stocks are stuffed inside it, is secretly built from just a couple of these fundamental directions. Financial engineers call them risk factors. You might own 20 stocks spread across a dozen different sectors, and yet, underneath all of that, your entire portfolio's risk might really boil down to just 2 or 3 independent bets. Something like growth versus value, or tech versus everything else, or exposure to interest rates. Everything past that is just noise, dressed up as variety. More logos on the statement, not more actual protection. This is the exact same mathematical move Google makes to rank web pages. Find the dominant eigenvector of one giant matrix, and you find the direction that actually matters, buried inside an ocean of data. 2 or 3 factors, hiding inside 20 tickers. That's the punchline quant funds have known for decades, and most retail portfolios never check. Here's the cruelest part of this math, and it's backed up by real market data. During calm markets, correlations between different stocks and sectors tend to sit comfortably apart from each other, genuine diversification. But during an actual systemic crisis, something painfully predictable happens. Correlations across almost everything spike toward one. Stocks, sectors, even entire asset classes that normally behave independently suddenly start moving together, straight down. That risk ellipse we built doesn't just shrink a little bit in a crash. It collapses toward that thin, dangerous line, exactly at the moment you needed the wide, protective shape the most. It happened in 2008. It happened again in March 2020, in a matter of weeks rather than months. The pattern is stable enough that professional risk teams now watch correlation itself, not just prices, as an early warning signal for exactly this kind of collapse. So what do you actually do with all of this? Real diversification means hunting for genuinely uncorrelated eigendirections, assets that don't share the same underlying driver, not just accumulating more tickers that all secretly lean on the same story. Picture every possible mix of your portfolio as a landscape, where height represents risk. Most combinations sit high up on the slopes of that landscape, quietly carrying more risk than they need to for the return they're offering. But there is a bottom to this bowl, a specific mix that minimizes your risk for the return you're targeting, sitting there the whole time, waiting to be found. No single asset needs to be perfect on its own. It just needs to point somewhere the rest of your portfolio doesn't already point. The goal was never to own everything you could find. It's to find your way down to that bottom. Don't put all your eggs in one basket was always a geometry problem, wearing a folk saying as a disguise. The real question was never how many eggs you own. It's whether your baskets actually point in different directions, especially on the one day it matters most. If this kind of thinking is your kind of thinking, subscribe, because this is exactly what we do here. And tell me in the comments, once you actually check the angles, is your portfolio as diversified as you thought it was? See you in the next one.